Good morning, everybody. I want to extend a warm welcome to you today. Everyone is welcome here. You're welcome here, regardless of your age, your race, your income, your religion, or the gender with which you identify. You are welcome here, regardless of who you love, who you vote for, the pronouns you prefer, the regrets that burden you, or the mistakes you have made. And it does not matter what your physical, mental, or cognitive abilities are. You are welcome here. Okay. In this, I'm going to be kissing the mic. In this safe community, we support each other in the sacred task of becoming, celebrate the transcending mystery of life, and rely on the transforming power of love. Here, you revere the words of the great teachers such as Jesus, the Buddha, and Confucius.
Where you may go. So today I have the great pleasure of introducing a very interesting person to me, Professor Barry Kitterman, who knows a lot about storytelling because he has told some really good stories himself. So to introduce Barry, I'm going to briefly reflect on a story that comes from his book, From the San Joaquin. Anyone but me read that book? A few you have, yes? Okay, good. In one of those quiet haunting tales that it is one of those quiet haunting tales that stays with you long after you finish reading it. Barry tells of a young woman in a small country town. She is not beautiful, not especially clever, not charming, and not talented in any obvious way. She is poor, plain, and as the story goes, seems to have no real prospects of marriage. Life has not been generous to her. Then one day a young wanderer comes through town, a bit mysterious, maybe even a bit of a grifter. He befriends the young woman. They fall in love and become engaged. In lieu of a ring, he gives her his watch as a symbol of their bond. The wedding is to take place at the little church where everyone knows everyone else. Much of the story unfolds at the church as the young woman, her mother, and the congregation prepare for the wedding to be held that day. The pastor knows the young woman well, but he deeply distrusts the intentions of her fiancé. Just before the young man is about to enter the church, the pastor intercepts him outside before anyone else knows he is there. In a heartbreaking moment, he gives the young man a sum of money, $30, I think. Was it $30? Yeah, sounds good. Yeah, it's been a while since I read the story, but it has stuck with me. And tells him to leave town and not come back. The young man takes the money and disappears forever. Inside the church, the pastor returns and pretends to be waiting for the groom, who he knows will never come. The story really sticks in my mind. Partly I've struggled with the pastor's deception. I've wondered, should he have brought the two together instead, sharing his misgivings, told the truth, and let them decide? Did he protect her, or did he rob her of her own agency, or even a chance at happiness? But the story also touches something deeper in me. Experience tells me that sometimes the spirit, or the unconscious mind, depending on your point of view, sets us up for failure, especially when there is a hard life lesson that we need to learn. Sometimes we are led into heartbreak not by chance, but by something within us that is trying to wake us up, enlarge us, or crack open our hearts. I think of a time in my Methodist minister days when two single congregants began dating after difficult divorces. I felt in my bones that they were spectacularly mismatched. I was tempted to speak up, but I didn't. Fortunately, after about a year, they parted amicably and went their separate ways. Even so, I still wonder, would speaking my truth have helped, or would it have only interfered with something they needed to discover for themselves? Okay, thank you. Go. At the end of Barry's story, the young woman walks home alone from church. You can almost feel her humiliation, her sense of betrayal, her bewilderment. Did he ever really love me? She must have wondered. In her despair, she throws the watch, the thing she thought symbolized their love, into the weeds. Later, she goes back and looks for the watch, perhaps as a reminder that she has once been loved. And Barry, thank you for creating such a rich, layered, and unforgettable tale. As many of you know, we end our welcoming words by saying, with a little help from our friends, we can each tell our own unique story. This is not a decorative phrase. It gets at the heart of what makes our UU religion powerful. We may tell the stories of the Buddha, of Jesus, of Lao Tzu, but the most sacred story unfolding here is your story. How are you answering poet Mary Oliver's famous question? What are you going to do with your one wild and precious life? Is your story one of finding the faith to really live, not cautiously, not half-heartedly, but fully, intentionally, courageously? Is your story a story of learning to live authentically, even when society is pushing you into a box? Is it a story of loving extravagantly, acting compassionately, and carrying yourself with grace? That is the spiritual work before us all. And that is why storytelling matters so much in this community. Because through story we discover who we are becoming, and how the spirit of life is calling us to live.
Well, good morning. It's great to see you all here this morning, and I want to say good morning to those who are taking in the service on Zoom as well. The monitor here behind the podium gives me the sense that while I'm speaking, some of you are back there looking over my shoulder, making sure I stay on topic and finish up on time. Thank you, Jim, for that generous introduction. And thank you, Beth, for inviting me to speak this morning. In The Wizard of Oz, there's the famous line, "Pay no attention to that man behind the curtain." I think we should pay more attention to that woman behind the curtain. Thank you, Beth, and Nico and Jaron for all you do. I'm going to read a very short piece this morning, and I want to say a few words about it first. My introduction will probably be longer than the piece of writing. I've been a member of Buff for 3 years, and a member of one UU fellowship or another for some 35 years. And this topic, storytelling, is one we come back to again and again. We often talk about how certain things are baked into our DNA or our shared consciousness. And I think storytelling may be one of those things. Someone, perhaps a linguist, once said, if it was a Saturday afternoon when a caveman or a cave woman first developed language, that Saturday night they told the first story, probably trying to explain to their mate where they had been all day. We love stories, and we look to them for all kinds of things: entertainment, wisdom, spiritual truths. When I was a boy going to the Baptist church, I was about 75% of the time bored out of my head. The rest of the time, of course, I was terrified. But I remember how much I loved the following 6 words that meant a break from the anger and scolding and finger pointing. These words, "Let me tell you a story." Whenever I heard the preacher say those words, I sat up in my pew. I listened. I stopped wanting to be somewhere else. I have a small group of friends today who write and share their work with me. Most of us are in our 70s now. As our number dwindles, and it has dwindled since the first of the year, we often come back to a central question. Why the heck are we still doing this? We all started writing so long ago, we can hardly remember why we began. But it had something to do with making a lot of money and becoming famous. Nobody in my close circle pulled that off. And it's less likely with each passing year. So why keep doing it? That question can probably be extended to everyone who pursues some sort of creative expression. There are people in our fellowship who write, and also people who paint and dance and go on stage and sing. and play musical instruments, and now this morning we find there are people who blow glass into beautiful award-winning projects, right? And why? Why do that? Samuel Johnson is reported to have said long ago, "No man, save a blockhead, ever wrote for anything other than money." It's a funny quote. I can't put much stock in it, though. I want to take a moment to read you something by the writer James Baldwin that offers a different reason for us to do what we do. In this case, the creative art is music. But knowing James Baldwin to be a devoted and wonderful writer, I don't think it's any stretch, really, to say he's also talking about writing and about storytelling. In his beautiful short story, Sonny's Blues, Baldwin gives us two brothers who don't understand each other. In this story, the older brother, the narrator of the story, has gone off to the army in the mid-1950s, early 1950s, and come back home to Harlem to find his younger brother, Sonny, devoted to two things: jazz and heroin. The narrator goes to a nightclub one night to hear Sonny play. Sonny is newly in recovery from his addiction, and he's trying to play the piano with a small combo. He's had a long layoff. It's not easy. And listening as hard as he can, the narrator finally gets it. This is from James Baldwin. Sonny and his boys up there were keeping it new, at the risk of ruin, destruction, madness, and death, in order to find new ways to make us listen. For while the tale of how we suffer, and how we are delighted, and how we may triumph, is never new, it always must be heard. There isn't any other tale to tell. It's the only light we've got in all this darkness. I woke up this morning with a cold, so I'll try not to cough all the way through this. Now I've been asked to read something on my own, so here is a very short piece of nonfiction titled Asana. The word asana is a Sanskrit word, and you will hear it a lot in yoga classes. It basically means position. Each yoga position is an asana. I've been taking yoga classes for a few years now, and my teachers are always telling me to get into one asana or another, and I move slowly and watch everyone else in the class to see what in the world the teacher is talking about. Someday I won't have to do that. Someday I'll learn all the asanas by name. The other word from this very short memoir that I'm going to read that bears mentioning is the word namaste. It's also a Sanskrit word that is something like a blessing. It's often offered up as a word before parting. Literally, I've been told it means something like, the light in me sees the light in you. Asana. In those years of watching every dollar, worrying about the mortgage, saving what we could for the next rainy day, the small gray sedan was the one car we bought new off the lot. We got such a good price on the car, we were sure there had to be something wrong with it. Together, we made a solemn vow to take care of it, to use the car wash regularly, put a blanket on the seat before we ferried the dog to the vet. Our kids were old enough. I trusted them not to put some funny sticker on the car's backside. My wife surprised me. She was the one to mar the pristine beauty of the little car. The shiny purple word she attached to the bumper looked like it might be Sanskrit. Namaste. I'll admit, I felt defeated. But soon enough, I got over it. We lived in Tennessee then, and my wife loved her yoga classes. She had the mats and the blankets, the belts and cork blocks. She signed up for a teacher training course, and I attended every session with her, listening to her voice when it was her turn to urge us into the poses one by one. Our daughter was in middle school, and it was my job to pick her up at the end of her day. My work at the college allowed me to trade the hour of freedom in the afternoon for late night sessions at my desk. Winter days, drowsy from the weak sun and the little car's reliable heater, I idled the engine in a long line of parents and their automobiles, reliving the disappointments of the week, the imagined ones and the real ones. I could fall into a troubled sleep, waiting for the children to come through the school doors. I used to do a ridiculous thing. I would try to keep one eye open, only one eye at a time, letting the other eye fall shut for a few seconds. I switched eyes so each one got some rest. When the car behind me honked its horn, and I always thought of it that way, that the car itself back there was growing impatient with me, I'd find myself startled into wakefulness. Both eyes open, I'd put my car in gear and wave sheepishly to the driver behind me without turning to look that way. One day, sitting behind the wheel, I came up out of a familiar dream. I was standing behind a rickety lectern as my students were leaving the classroom. But first, as they walked past me single file, they'd see that I had once again forgotten to wear any pants. When behind me a tall Tennessee father got out of his muddy pickup and hurried in my direction. "Namaste," he said. "Namaste." It was a word I thought I must be dreaming. He saw my confusion and he pointed at the back of my car. "Namaste," he said again. "Me and my cousin, we say that word all the time. Namaste, namaste." He had a huge smile on his face. "It means peace," he said. I became aware that a gap had opened in the line of cars ahead of me. "We go to the Catholic Church," he said, "and when everybody's supposed to offer the handshake to his neighbor, you know that part, we like to throw our hands up in the air and say, 'Namaste.'" I wonder, did I have the presence of mind to offer anything as kind to him as the thing he had just said to me? I didn't correct him. What I hope I said was something like this: "And also to you, my brother, namaste." A car further back in the line honked a warning. From my rearview mirror, I watched the father who had spoken to me pull himself behind the wheel of his truck and nod. I'm almost sure I waved. I live in a different town now. I do my yoga with a different teacher, and she is kind and often gives me alternate poses. She asked for my body's history, and I told her. I told her all of it. At the end of each session, she has me sit alongside the others and bring my hands together and close my eyes and breathe. And for a moment, I don't think ahead to coffee or the drive home, the empty house. Namaste, she says to all of us. Namaste, she says to me. And I whisper it back to her. Namaste. Thank you.